right?
That's right. And then that allows us to set up alerting.
Right.
To say, hey, did Eric log in at 2 a.m.?
Right.
He never logs in at 2 a.m.
No.
Send an alert. Something is up.
Hi, I'm Eric.
I'm Mike.
And welcome to
Cyber Sitrep. All right, we are here and we're doing good. That's too many in a row. So
I know.
It's getting scary.
Like we told you guys previously, we bulk record these because our availability is a little challenging.
As you can tell from the...
Yeah, well, we just got lucky. Oh, yeah, bulk. Yeah, I see. I see what you did there.
They're like, they wear the same shirts all the time.
We try to. I think it's because we're wired kind of similar,
That's right.
You know? Just makes sense.
We've both been dropped on our head a few times.
Just a shout out, if you've seen our other Cyber Sitrep, if you've come up with Garanimals for adults, please let us know.
We need them.
We'll be
Definitely.
lifelong
I need to match my
dedicated
lions
customers.
and my tigers.
Absolutely.
And,
then we don't have to worry about coordinating, right?
21 years, I had 2 colors. Works and dress.
I know. I'm trying to get there, but the wife doesn't quite appreciate the simplicity there.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's kind
why
of a tough sell. So, but I'm working on it.
That's why I'm typically a T-shirt boy, because I don't know how to match.
Exactly. But we made him wear a collared shirt today for this
fancy
for this Sitrep. So speaking of that, Mike, what is our Sitrep today?
So we are into our series of cybersecurity for small business, Cyber 101, and we've hit ring 3. We started at the core, went to ring 1, 2, and now we are at 3. So hang on tight.
But Mike, we only have 3 things in ring 3.
That makes it easy. Or does it?
Or does it?
That's right. This is definitely where we get a bit more technical and could possibly come into more expense depending on how you want to do it.
Absolutely, and it's also the really big changeover, not only from tech but to management, right?
Exactly.
So there's still a lot of tech here, as we're going to explain, but there's a lot of management responsibility in this ring as well.
Absolutely.
And that's where you're going to get that shift from worker ant to queen ant, right? Is in this ring before we get to edge. So
absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off, Mike. What's the first thing we got to do in ring 3?
So I like to say, if you aren't logging, did the hack really happen?
Right.
If you don't see it, there's no auditing turned on.
Right.
How do you know if it happened?
Yeah, our old joke was you can't have an incident without a log, right?
That's right.
Right.
So, and I try to refer it to the tree falling in the woods, logs. If a log happens in the wood and no one is around to see it,
did it fall?
Did it actually happen?
Right,
yeah.
right. And the answer is yes, it did. You just missed it, right?
You have no proof of it, no evidence.
You're going to hate us, but you need to audit your environment, right? Everything in your environment that's capable of supporting audit needs to be audited.
Yes.
Right? And that's where we lose cabin pressure, is that, they're like, well, how do I get a printer to audit? How do I get a network switch to audit? Well, there's this beautiful thing called syslog,
yep.
right? And that's a very technical thing. Look it up. This takes a lot of effort, right? So to do auditing properly, in my opinion, you have to identify everything in the environment. So see our other Sitrep about maintenance,
yep.
Getting a master inventory of everything that's in your environment. And then from the auditing lens, you take a look at that and say, hey, does it support audit? And if it doesn't, then why do you have it in your environment?
You may want to find something that does.
Because there's the pro tip. You need to audit everything in your environment.
So think of auditing as a record of everything your computer or system or piece of equipment does.
Right.
Like I turned on, someone logged in, this happened today.
Somebody changed my password.
Right. And so if you don't have those turned on and someone breaks into that piece of equipment, you have no
visibility
idea that they're there.
Yeah.
So.
And once again, because we're talking to small businesses focus, this is a requirement, right? If you have cybersecurity insurance, your customers, et cetera, they're going to expect some level of auditing for accountability, right? In the event something does happen, that you can find out what root cause was and ideally prevent it from happening again.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's no longer the if I get breached, it's when.
It's when.
And when you are breached,
right.
You need to know how in order to stop it from
right.
happening again.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And we'll put down in the links for this one. There's a lot of links here, a lot of different sources of truth for auditing. So Microsoft actually has a really good audit primer for their operating systems of things that you should turn on and why. And then if you want to go more of the government route, we talked previously about the STIGS.
That's right.
Defense Information Systems Agency, Security Technical Implementation Guides, the Center for Internet Security cybersecurity benchmarks. A lot of the controls in there are audit related, right?
And you can, again, this is where it can cost some money if you want to.
Right.
Your logs could be centrally managed.
Yes.
Where they all go to a log server that is managing it. Microsoft has Microsoft Sentinel if you're in the Office 365 or Azure Cloud.
Right.
But wherever you are, it eases your burden with a little bit of money.
Mike, you bring up the great point I was going to slide into, not segue into, is that when it comes to auditing doesn't scale from a manual point of view.
Right.
So if you've got one person dedicated to manually auditing those systems and devices on a regular basis, they're going to hate you, number one, and number two, they're going to miss things, right? Because especially if you have a heterogeneous environment and you have Windows systems and you have a network printer and they're all different manufacturers, their audit logs are going to look different. So now all of a sudden you have to be an expert in looking at that native format on all those systems, right? And that just doesn't scale. So to Mike's point, we need to leverage technology, which will be the spend here, right? Could be. There are some open source products out there, but something that automates that for us, right?
That's right. And then that allows us to set up alerting.
Right.
To say, hey, did Eric log in at 2 a.m.?
Right.
He never logs in at 2 a.m.
No.
Send an alert, something is up.
Exactly. And so we haven't done the Sitrep on this topic yet, but we're going to do one soon. It's called Security Information Event Monitoring, SIEM. And that's what we're talking about here, leveraging that 800-pound gorilla that ingests all those logs for us, takes a look at those, normalizes those logs. It aggregates the logs first, so it gets them all together. Then it normalizes them and it removes all those dialects those different system types are using and gets it into a common dialect. And then once it has that, then it runs all those rules and signature checks on there to look for those indicators of compromise to say, hey, am I supposed to have somebody logging in at 2 a.m.? No, I have a rule for that. Oops, I better send an email to Mike because something's up.
Something's going wrong.
And once again, that's the invaluable part here. So take your time, right? Auditing to do properly is not even a 30-day thing, right? And it's not a do once and you're done, right? Get it set up in your environment, test that, make sure you're seeing what you expect to see. And here's the thing, you own your infrastructure, so run some things that look nefarious and test your response, right? And if you're not detecting it, then maybe you don't have something configured properly, right?
If you allow your children in with their iPads and your system alerts that there's new systems on the net,
then you're good. You're good. Now you're going to have another conversation about how they were able to get on there. But that's the point, right? Don't assume that when you go and buy this product or implement it yourself that it's configured out of the box and giving you what you need, because I guarantee you it's not. Personal experience, gray hair, lots of weight gain from that. You got to test, and you need to test on a regular basis, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you have to have a log. Have to
have a log. And then one final point, it's not such a big deal now, but once again, you got to remember we came up when processors weren't nearly as fast as they are today. And it was very possible to configure the system to do so much auditing that it wouldn't function normally for you to do your job, right? And those days have kind of passed. I mean, it's still possible to do if somebody's committed, but just balance the what you're going to audit against the needs for operations and find that balance in your environment, which is what I mean by going in and fine-tuning that continually over the year and making adjustments as you need, right? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
It'll save time, space, and energy, money, all of that.
Absolutely. And once again, just remember it doesn't scale. I see people start to cry when they have 3 or 4 systems to do manually, and they're trying to save a penny, do it manually because they have to, because they're doing work for the government, and then they find out it's a full-time thing, and that's just not a good use of that person's time.
That's right.
Right? Because they're being paid to do something else. So anyway,
affordable solutions are out there.
Yeah. Take your time, do it right. Look at tech. Next, incident detection and response.
IDER.
So that's why we mentioned auditing first, right? Because literally, it's hard to have an incident without a log, right?
That's right.
So we got to set up logging. We got to get the auditing configured. Now that we have the auditing configured, now we can look for those incidents, right? Or indicators of compromise, whatever you want to call it, right?
The 2 a.m. login.
Yeah, and be able to respond to that, right?
Exactly.
Because I don't know about you, Mike, but I can't if I had to do a percentage, I would say probably 95% of the bad stuff that happens always happens at the end of the week or over the weekend or after hours. It's never during a normal work day in the middle of the day.
As a first responder in that regard, yes, it is always.
Yeah, you've lived it.
It's if you have just sat down for a nice relaxing evening,
absolutely.
It's the weekend. It's never when you're sitting at the computer like, I'm ready for this to happen.
Right. And so one shout out to the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Yep.
If this sounds like a foreign language to you, I understand. Check out the NIST Special Publication 800 series of documents. That is all computer security related. And in fact, when you go to that URL, it is the Center for Cyber Security Resource Center, I believe. CSRC is the acronym for it. Check that out. Free of charge, written by geniuses, right? PhDs, people that have been in the industry for decades.
Don't drive and read those.
No, please don't.
Because you'll fall asleep.
Yeah, and if you have insomnia, that is a free cure. You can thank us later. But great information on there, especially incident response. That's the ANR-61. I just looked at it a couple days ago. That's why I still have it in my head. Excellent resource. Use that. They walk you through all the different stages, why you need to do it, how to do it, and how to record that, right?
That's right.
Free gift. Please take advantage of that. We'll put that in the links as well for you guys to check out. And then finally, the vulnerability scanning and remediation. And these are kind of like the triad. They all go together, right?
They do. And if you, again, have that fund to spend, you can find a resource, something that the Security Operations Center, a company that will do all of this for you.
Absolutely. Outsourced.
And 24/7 monitoring of that system.
Awesome.
They can be, relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, and Mike, to your point, that used to not be an option, right? It used to be you had to roll your own. It was really, really complex to set up and maintain, and it cost a heck of a lot of money.
Both internally or externally, if you did that.
And now, not so much. There are all these SIEM as a service, SOC as a service offerings out there that do a great job, and they're relatively affordable for what you get.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
To Mike's point, if you don't have the expertise to do that security analysis yourself, outsource it so it gets done properly, right?
It literally, they'll load a agent on your endpoints, and then you sit back and it's done.
Right.
They're logging, they're monitoring the logs, they can do the incident response should something happen.
Absolutely.
And then they're there for this vulnerability scanning as well, because typically they'll include a weekly, monthly, whatever it may be.
Exactly. And so once again, we'll put in the links. There are free and open source products out there to do vulnerability scanning and detection. There are commercial products out there. I'm not going to name drop a ton of them. I think we already did though, right?
Yeah.
We use Tenable Nessus.
Tenable Nessus, if
That's
you have
guy.
less than 16 computers,
is free. Right.
So.
Yep, absolutely. And once again, not throwing any shade. Rapid7 has a great product out there.
Yep.
And then, I'm trying to think of who else
They were
does
in town
it.
yesterday, by the way.
Oh, were they?
Yeah,
you told me
they had a
about that. Yeah,
conference,
that was great. That's awesome. Microsoft has vulnerability detection now. Microsoft Defender
does it
add-in right at the cloud level, and it's aggressive. It continually scans in the background for vulnerabilities.
When I first looked at it, normally we talk about vulnerability scans, and it's like, well, how frequently do you do it?
Exactly.
And now our Microsoft clients that are using Microsoft go
all the time.
And I'm like, that
That's
really?
Great. Yeah, that's great.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's great. So once again, in the links, we'll have some of that. But the point is, you get it installed in your environment. Once again, you scan everything that can be scanned.
Exactly.
And then there's two types of scans. There's authenticated and unauthenticated scans. And wherever you can, do an authenticated scan, because that allows it to dig deeper into the system for additional vulnerabilities, patches, etc., that it won't see. Unauthenticated is it's looking at the system externally, right? Authenticated, it's able to authenticate into the system, look at it from the inside out, and you get a heck of a lot more data. And in fact, in government, it's a requirement they have to be authenticated scans so that we get enough data to be actionable, right?
Right. Okay. To make sure that, based on a previous ring, are we updating and patching?
All right. This all kind of meshes together.
Right.
It's crazy,
this is the did I or did I miss one?
Right.
Sometimes with our auto updates, maybe a machine chokes and doesn't quite finish an update.
Spoken from experience.
Think it has. Yeah, and we think it has. On a small network, that might be easier to notice if you're doing it yourselves. Get 10, 15 computers. If one misses it, you're vulnerable. You don't know.
Yeah.
The vulnerability scan will say, hey, Computer 12.
Guess what? You missed it on 12.
Yeah. You got to come in and redo that patch.
Worth its weight, right? And whenever we teach other classes, we always separate patching from vulnerability management because they're not the same. They're not equal. So just turning on auto update, it's a great start, right? If you don't have anywhere else to come from. But you got to do vulnerability management separately just for that reason.
That's right.
So that it's independent, source of truth that catches all these things.
You're checking your homework.
Yes, that's a great way of saying it. Professor, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay.
I think I've done it, but the vulnerability test says, yes, you did, or you missed one.
Right. And then one final point before we close out is frequency, right, of vulnerability scanning. Like I said, the newer stuff out there is continuous. That's awesome. That's great. It's kind of like a little Jack Russell Terrier constantly barking at you. You got something to fix.
You need to fix this. You need to fix this.
So, the I'm out on that a little bit because, if you continue to give me alerts constantly,
alert fatigue.
You're training me to ignore you, right? So I think that's a great step. But best practice for us, normally we recommend monthly. For our other customers that you run that vulnerability scan every month, get into some kind of ops rhythm based on the severity of the vulnerability you find, remediate it within a certain amount of time. You guys will have to determine that yourself, right?
Exactly, and it helps with your documentation. And when we talk about compliance, you need to document so you can have a report that's monthly done, and then you can show your actions based on that report. So
absolutely
it closes that loop in the compliance side.
Yep. Awesome. Great.
So that's ring 3.
It's ring 3. I mean, not many things, but they're pretty in depth. Each one of them is its own microcosm. So once again, take your time on this. If you can work this in parallel with any of the other rings, core or edge, please do. But that's all right. Just realize this, of all the rings, is going to take you the most amount of time to do properly.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our websites are listed. We're happy to talk to you about them.
Yeah, we kind of, I don't know, I guess we're geeks. We really like this stuff. But
we do.
I think it's because we know it's important, because we've seen it make a difference in the field, right?
That's right. Small steps will save you big.
Absolutely. So, all right, Mike, close us out, sir.
So, glad you guys are all here. We're coming to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast Studio at the Next Us, which is a professional cooperative environment for small businesses here in downtown Colorado Springs. So our podcasts have been for small businesses, and we're here supporting small businesses.
Absolutely. Please stay tuned. Edge is next. We're going to close it out.
Close it out with Edge.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.